Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! I've worked in a casino business for 16 years, started off working in the kitchens and worked my way up to being a casino host in about 10 years. So I know all the ins and outs of the business in order to make our most elite players as comfortable and fun as possible. No, I've never got to serve any celebrities. There is another host above me who's there just for that privilege. I worked there for a couple more years even after finishing college and getting the degrees I wanted. All help paid for by the casino for my loyal service. The scene. I'm out alone celebrating a promotion lined up for me at my new job that I've been working for the last 2 years. I was on good terms with everyone when I left and said hello and caught up with a few of them, even getting drinks from the service girls as a congratulations. Since I know how hard they all work, I tip everyone I meet very generously. Unfortunately, this means that my old patrons, players, and guests, you name it, also remember me. And one in particular, the Karen, treats everyone badly. I've known and hosted her for years, so I know everything she likes and hates. She's been banned on multiple occasions for harassing other players. Once, she threw one of those huge margaritas that you are supposed to share with 4 people off of a balcony and gave another player who it hit a concussion. Of course, this lady spent so much money at the casino. So the worst that happened to her was that she got banned for a year and settled out of court with the other lady she hit with a margarita. It sucks that she's one of the wealthier patrons of the casino, spending millions every year at our establishment. It always says she'll never come back because she never wins and the service is bad. Mainly in regards to me, despite doing everything she has ever asked of me, exactly as she asked. She sees me having a drink at one of the bars and decides to try and ruin my good time. Hey, why haven't I seen you in a while? Oh hey, feeling like I'm glad to see her. I'm really not. Oh, I'm just out having a few drinks, figured I'd check out my old stomping grounds. Have you been? She rolls her eyes at me like I'm boring her to death, nothing I haven't seen before. And she interrupts me. Her face and attitude change are like some high-class witch talking down to a peasant. Something I see a lot of rich people do. Great, since you aren't doing anything, go cash out my chips for me. Those witches behind the counter won't pay me out since I'm over the cash out limit. And I left my license upstairs back in the room they gave me. I never understand why people do not carry ID on them in a casino. This is a problem that happens way too often. So people, carry your ID at all times. Also, there is a certain threshold of money that the cashiers are not allowed to cash out without proper ID. It's really not a big deal, it's mainly for in-house auditing, and in no way has to do with taxes. Those are mainly jackpots and promotional winners. We try to make things easier, but some people live to make other lives difficult. Like Karen. I tell her I would, but I really don't want to. Just shut up and do what I tell you. Or are you too stupid to follow simple instructions? Get it done, or I will find out where you do work, and not only will I get you fired, but you'll be living in the gutter for the rest of your life. It takes everything I have not to snap. So I bite my tongue as I start to come up with how I'm going to get back at this woman. Okay, Karen, give me everything you have, and I'll take care of it. I say, as calmly as I can. I so have you. Oh, and don't tip yourself. I know you make more than minimum wage here, so it's not like you need it or anything. I'm not comfortable tipping myself with clients I'm on the best terms with, but I'm ready to snap with this woman. She dumps thousands, roughly $10,000 worth of chips on a bar counter, not even caring that a few hundreds end up rolling on the ground and into the barkeeper's area, who kindly helps me gather them up. She leaves and I'm shaking in fury until I calm myself enough to go through with my plan. And I start gathering all the chips into a couple racks that were conveniently nearby. The barkeep, Chris, fake name of course, asks if I'm okay having seen the whole exchange. I hand him 3 of the $100 chips with a malicious smile on my face. It's going to be a good night for the staff, I said. Do it, man. Chris cheered me on. and I went off handing chips off to any casino employee I ran across. I had to go to the cashier to pick up a couple $1,000 chips and gave them a $100 each. In less than an hour, I had given away nearly $10,000 and I just left. I got a call from one of my old work buddies about the storm Karen threw when she found out I had given all her money away. She punched the executive host in the face and is now perma-banned from the casino, and also blacklisted from several others with an assault charge on top. When she gave me her chips, it looked exactly like that on the cameras. She had given me chips and she forgot to tell me where and when to meet her in order to get them back. And since I was another casino patron, that amounted to abandoned cash. Basically, if you're careless enough to leave behind, or in Karen's case, give away money, then that money doesn't belong to anyone, and it's finders keepers at this point. Even if I stayed and got caught or questioned, then the worst they could ever do to me was ask for the money back, and if I refused, then it would be a 3-day ban and an immediate escort out of the casino. I know $10,000 is a drop in the pocket to Karen, but the blow to her ego is worth so much more. You just won't believe the wild scene I witnessed at the grocery store the other day. I was just minding my own business trying to grab some snacks when I saw this Karen with her crazy antics. Let me tell you the whole story. I was casually going about my business picking up groceries when out of nowhere Karen appears right beside me, giving me the stink eye like I did something wrong. I could practically feel the tension oozing out of her. I tried my best to ignore her, thinking she was just having a bad day or something, but no, that wasn't enough for her. Karen decided to speak up and says, "You're in my way. Move." I was taken aback because, to be honest, I wasn't blocking anything. There was plenty of space for her to go around, but you know how these entitled people are. They just want to cause trouble for no reason. So I politely reply, "Oh, sorry. I didn't realize I was in your way. You can go ahead." But of course, that's not what she wanted. She starts rambling about how I'm intentionally blocking her path and that I must have been doing it on purpose because I'm rude. Rude? Me? I couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity of it all. I tried to defuse the situation by saying, "Look, I didn't mean to upset you. Let's just both go back to our shopping, and there won't be any issues." You'd think that would be enough, right? But oh no, Karen was not about to back down. She takes it as a personal challenge and starts raising her voice, drawing attention to our little encounter. Now, I am not one to get into unnecessary conflicts, so I decide to walk away and continue my shopping, but Karen was not about to let me off the hook that easily. She follows me around, still hurling insults and accusing me of being disrespectful. I couldn't help but roll my eyes at this point. It's like dealing with a toddler throwing a tantrum over a candy bar. I try my best to keep my cool and not engage with her nonsense, but here is a kicker. She sees me looking at some baby products and that's when she really loses it. She starts ranting about how I shouldn't be allowed near babies because I'm probably some kind of child abductor. Can you believe that? Now, I am a calm and patient person, but this was crossing the line. I look at her and say, "Listen, lady, I don't know what your problem is, but you're way out of line. I have as much right to be here as anyone else. And for your information, I have a niece who I adore. So don't you dare make baseless accusations like these." But of course, Karen wouldn't back down. She starts attracting even more attention and people around us are just staring like we're some kind of reality TV show. All over nothing. Thankfully, a store employee notices a commotion and steps in to mediate. I explain the situation and the employee handles it quite professionally, asking Karen to calm down and reminding her that we're all just trying to shop peacefully. It was like she finally realized that her antics were getting her nowhere and she begrudgingly walks away, muttering under her breath, "Phew, I thought it was over." But little did I know that her craziness was just getting started. Not long after, she'd have the entire police force pointing their guns at her in a shocking scene. Let's get to that part, shall we? After my stupid encounter with Karen, I decided to discreetly keep an eye on Karen from a distance, hoping she'll just move on and leave the store. And that's when I spot this young mom with her adorable baby boy fast asleep in his stroller. The little one looked like an angel, all snug in his blanket, but then, out of nowhere, enters Karen, the classic entitled lady from earlier. Karen walks up to the young mother and exclaims, "Oh, what a precious little baby! Can I play with him?" The young mother, in a polite tone, tells her, "I'm sorry, but he's sleeping, and I don't want him to wake up just yet." But Karen simply won't take no for an answer. She keeps insisting, "Oh, come on, you won't mind the little playtime?" The mother stands her ground saying, "No thank you, he needs his rest, and I don't want to disturb him." Well, you know how entitled people are. They don't understand the word no. Karen starts getting all huffy and puffy, and before we know it, she's shouting at the top of her lungs. The poor baby wakes up crying his little eyes out, and his mama rushes to pick him up, trying to soothe him. But guess what? Karen, out of nowhere, reaches into the stroller, picks up the baby before his mother does, and starts pacing away towards the exit gate. It was like a scene from a dramatic movie. The mother is losing it at this point, screaming and running behind Karen, begging people to stop her. We all rush to help, but Karen is relentless, making her way to the parking lot with a baby in her arms. And just as we think things can't get any crazier, a good Samaritan steps in and blocks Karen's path, preventing her from going any further. Meanwhile, the police clearly have been called, and in no time, multiple officers are on the scene, guns drawn. It's like a showdown, and all of us bystanders are just watching in shock. But here is a twist. Turns out, that little baby boy is none other than the grandson of the police chief himself. Talk about a plot twist. Seeing the entire police force pointing their guns at her, Karen finally snaps back to reality. She must have realized the mess she caused and got herself into. The chief's grandson of all people? She hands the baby over to one of the female officers, who hands him back to his mother, while Karen's still muttering nonsense about how the baby can't be possibly the mother's because he doesn't look like her, and that she was doing the baby a favor getting him away from that strange woman pushing him around. Oh boy, did that lady dig herself into a deep, crazy hole. The police chief arrives on the scene and he looks furious, to say the least. I couldn't help feel a bit of satisfaction watching Karen squirm in her entitled outrage. The chief approaches his crying daughter, who's still shaken, and hugging her baby tightly, and he assures her that everything is going to be okay. The officers take Karen into custody, and that's when we all finally breathe a sigh of relief. I mean, seriously, what was Karen thinking, trying to steal a baby and then claiming the mom wasn't his real mom? That's some next-level entitled behavior. The police chief personally thanks the Good Samaritan who stopped Karen, and all of us witnesses get interviewed by the officers, telling them what happened. It was like we were part of a real-life crime investigation or something. After what felt like an eternity, the chief comes over to thank all of us personally for helping and being there for his daughter and her baby. Thankfully, the young mother and her baby are doing fine now, and they have become sort of local celebrities. Everyone in the neighborhood is rallying around them, offering support and love. In the days following the incident and as legal proceedings began, Karen was charged with a series of offenses, including kidnapping, assault, and endangering the welfare of a child. The charges carried severe penalties, and it became apparent that Karen's actions would have lifelong repercussions. Karen was sentenced to 10 years in prison, along with probation upon her release. The court also imposed a restraining order preventing her from ever being near the mother and her baby again. So there you have it, guys. Everything that happened on the craziest day and the craziest encounter I have ever been a part of. I'm glad my encounter with that Karen prior to the kidnapping incident didn't take a worse turn. Who knows what she might have done to me if I were to escalate, to be honest. I'm glad that we will never know. So this story is a few years old now, from my first year of varsity. I had started varsity and was doing a pretty hectic course in the medical field. As a child to a single parent who had not worked since I was 15, I obviously needed a job to cover my living expenses and what little my scholarship didn't. So I started working part-time at a bookstore in my local mall, as it suited my personality and I love books in general. The bookstore is one of those large-scale corporate chain types, The pay was as close to minimum wage as humanly possible though. So 6 months in, I am doing well and I get promoted to night manager. Duties involved managing the night staff, most of which are students like myself, and then 2 late 20 girls, most of which have kids. A week into me being night manager, a directive comes from head office saying that we are not making enough book sales and that we are obviously not trying. Not to put it in perspective, this is around the time where Kindles and all the other types of e-readers were becoming popular. So naturally, physical book sales had dropped radically. To remedy this fact, they were sending down a new store manager to take over, and our current store manager would take a minor managerial role. 3 days later, in walks the new manager, a short woman who hates men. Needless to say, I walk through to the back for our daily shift change meeting where they introduce her. She greets us all and then asks all the manager to stay behind. So everyone filters out, leaving the 4 managers, myself as a night manager, the day manager, the stock manager, and our previous store manager. So next thing, the new boss, Karen, turns to me and asks me what the heck I'm still doing here. I calmly explain that I'm the night manager. She hears this and looks at everyone else to confirm this. Once they confirm the truth of my words, she looks at me directly and gives us a whole throwdown of how things around here are going to change nada. 6 months down the line, nothing much has happened. Karen has been nothing but passive-aggressive to me and some others, and everyone has noticed to the point where everyone in our store has a burning dislike for her. The managers get called in for a meeting where we get told the store is going to be closing in a week for 2 months for a revamp. I immediately ask why the short notice and the night staff all earn on a shift-to-shift basis. A week's notice isn't enough time to make alternative arrangements. Karen flips out at me saying that they don't matter and are easily replaceable. I point out that 2 of them rely on this job to feed their families and they can't live without this job. All the other managers stand with me on this point. Karen then falls back and says we will pay them a base wage for 1 month and then hire them as painters. Now my neighbor is a painter by trade and I know they earn at least twice what we are paid per hour. So I point this out as well as ask if she is also going to pay for them to be trained. She then flips out at me further for being a smart aleck. Okay, maybe I deserve that. Eventually she says that we will meet tomorrow to discuss her final decision. The time that she chooses though is an hour and a half before my shift starts and right in the time frame where I have one of my final exams. I point this out and an evil grin crosses Karen's face as she says to me, if you don't make it in tomorrow, don't bother coming in ever again. A week later I found out 3 of my co-workers on a night shift were let go with no pay and told to reapply once the store opens. All those who had openly been friendly with me were told not to come back. This included both young mothers. This sends me into a fit of absolute rage. It's one thing to screw with me, but to mess with my co-workers as well? Well, that's too far. I immediately phoned head office to complain and was completely ignored. Kept on a line, switched from department to department, and eventually I had enough and sent in a detailed report to my country's Business Control Council, reporting the corporation rather than a store for bad business practice and unfair dismissal of multiple staff members. I then emailed the corporation's human resources explaining what I had done and why. I informed them that I would change my complaint to the name of the store manager instead of the corporation in general if they found a way to rectify what they had done. It took 3 days before I received a response. They rented a smaller store for everyone to work at while the renovations were done at great expense due to the small timing window, and they rehired everyone while suspending Karen without pay until further notice. I immediately kept my promise and edited my complaint. Investigation was done and Karen lost her job permanently with no chance of a reference. Had worked for said company for 20 years. With a 20-year gap in her CV, it has been very hard for her to find a decent job. I saw her the other day working as a packer in my local supermarket, and this is what brought the story to mind. In the pre-corona age, I worked in airport check-in for a ground operations company in Sweden. I encountered a lot of entitled people, so I thought I'd share one of my experiences with you. Disclaimer: human memory is one of the worst forms of recording memories since we forgot and reconstruct memories over time, but I will do my best to give an honest representation. So anyone who isn't familiar with what a ground operations company is, it's a company that handles any non-flying related work for many different airlines. This includes baggage handling, check-in, boarding, de-icing, arrival service, and so on. This means I am not employed by any airline, but I work for a company that is hired by multiple airlines. Summertime is busy time in the airline industry, and this day was no exception, especially for our biggest customer, a certain low-budget airline that I won't reveal the name of. I was standing behind the check-in desk when a father and son came up to my desk. They gave me their passport and put their two hold bags on the baggage belt. The scale immediately shows that their bags exceed their allowed weight by 6 kilograms. When I look at their reservation, I see that their ticket doesn't even allow them to have any hold baggage, only carry-ons. I think to myself, uh-oh, this is going to be awfully expensive for them. Purchasing an allowance for just one hold bag at check-in costs 65 euros. An overweight baggage costs an additional 15 euros per kilogram. In total, they would have to pay 220 euros or 265 USD. I tell the entitled dad that he will have to pay for the baggage or that he can repack the bags to fit the allowed weight, thus only paying for the bags themselves. He refuses to pay for anything and gets all up in my face about it. This happens a lot, so I wasn't shocked by his reaction. Usually, these kinds of people try to bully or shame you into waiving the fee, effectively giving them free baggage. Unfortunately for him, I am very stubborn. Why should I have to pay? I have done nothing wrong. You have no baggage in your reservation and the bags are over their weight limit. You can repack over there, points at repacking area, or pay for all of it right away. You are telling me I can't bring home my bags? You can bring them with you if you pay for them like everyone else. I have no money to pay for these. This is almost always nonsense. Oh, shame. Then a teenager says, "Dad, just pay for the bags." The kid's reaction tells me his dad can pay, but just doesn't want to. I want to go home with my bags. I have paid for my tickets and now you say I can't go? The ticket you paid for doesn't include hold baggage. This is a problem here. I further checked the reservation. Sometimes passengers mistakenly only pay for hold baggage in one way. This wasn't the case though. The first excess fee was waived by staff at his original airport. At this point, I was done with his nonsense. I don't know what you want me to do. Oh, come on, man. Okay, you have three options. 1. You pay for your bags. 2. You go home with your bags. 3. You don't go home at all. He realizes that I won't budge and ends up paying for his bags. I wish him a happy flight, but he just mumbles something under his breath. Ah, entitled people. Anyways, that's the end of it. So there I was, loving the simple things in life, watching my kids have a blast on a trampoline not set up in our backyard. The sound of my kids laughing and giggling filled the air and it was music to my ears. My wife and I couldn't have been happier. Our little piece of paradise was just perfect. But I heard something one morning that made my heart sink. Instead of the normal sounds of the innocent fun, there was yelling and chaos. When I ran to the window, I was shocked to see more than 20 kids running around in our backyard. Some were jumping on a trampoline and others were playing around in our pool. It looked like something from a crazy fair. My wife and I looked at each other with confusion before running outside to face the chaos. We looked around the yard for an adult among all this chaos. And that's when we saw her. Karen, the head of the HOA, standing near the gate and talking to 2 other women. I went up to Karen because I was both annoyed and interested. "Excuse me, but what's going on here?" Even though I was shocked, I tried to ask the question in a polite way. Karen looked at us and her face was as pure as you can get. "Oh, you must be the homeowners," she said with a wave. "We've chosen to have our play date today in your backyard. It's for the good of the area as a whole." My wife was shocked. "You can't just barge in without asking." she said. One of the women with Karen said, "Well, we thought it would be better than having all those kids in the park making a mess." I didn't think what I was hearing was true, but it's our property, and we should have a say in who's allowed here, I said. Karen just gave a shrug and said, "Well, the HOA voted on it, and the majority always wins. Enjoy the spirit of the group." The three women turned their backs on us and went back to talking, which shocked us. I lost it. "Who gave you permission to do this on my property?" I yelled because, well, I was so angry. "Do not let anyone in without my permission. Get them out of here in 10 minutes or I'm going to call the police right now." Karen's face changed shape and she started calling me mean things like heartless and selfish, and her lies were practically never ending. I didn't wait around any longer. I got my phone out and called 911. And within minutes, the cops showed up and I told them what had happened. Right away, they started telling everyone to leave. When the police asked if I wanted to press charges, I didn't pause. I said, "Yes," very strongly. Karen broke the rules and I want to charge her. When I turned to Karen, I couldn't help but say, "Next time you break into my house, I will let my dog go after you. I'll make sure that he watches over the yard from now on." Karen was very angry. She couldn't believe someone had the guts to go against her as head of the HOA. But it was clear that she had gone too far this time, and I wasn't going to let her get away with it. And this was just the very start of our fight with Karen. A few days after the fight with Karen, I woke up with an odd feeling that wouldn't just go away. There was something wrong. I looked out the window of my bedroom and saw my dog eating a big piece of meat. What's wrong? Well, he had not gotten it from me. I felt so scared, so I ran outside. When I got there, my dog had already eaten the strange meat. I thought it was odd, but I chose to let it go. But my happiness didn't last long. About 20 minutes later, I found my poor dog throwing up like no tomorrow. My wife and I took him to the vet as soon as we could. The vet worked fast to get our furry baby back to health, but it was clear that something was very wrong. After 45 long minutes, the vet came out of the exam room and asked us, "Did your dog eat anything strange today?" He might have been poisoned, I think. My heart dropped. I told the vet that I had seen him eat a lot of meat in the morning, but that I hadn't given it to him. "Well, you don't usually find big pieces of meat just lying around," the vet said with a serious look on his face. "Someone could have tried to kill your dog with poison. Have you thought of anyone?" I felt really angry and confused at the same time. Pieces of this crazy puzzle were starting to fit together, and it looked like Karen had done something horrible out of anger and a sense of entitlement. After a few scary hours at the vet, my dog was finally stable and on the way to get better. It was good to have him back home, but I couldn't get rid of the feeling of anger and betrayal. I knew I had to figure out what was going on. I looked at what my CCTV cameras had caught. It was as clear as day. Karen was wearing hats and sunglasses and sneaking around my fence. She then threw a big piece of meat near my dog and quickly drove off in her car. I made a copy of the video and went straight to the police station. I told the police that Karen had tried to kill my dog, and the vet bills showed that my dog had been poisoned around the same time as the crime. The cops didn't wait around. They went to see Karen, and when she refused to go with them and work peacefully with them, they didn't think twice. In front of other people, they put her in handcuffs and made her walk away in shame. Karen was charged with major crimes like animal cruelty and poisoning animals, among other things. The court did not like what she did. She got a year in county jail and a hefty $20,000 fine for her crime. It was a good ending to a chapter of trouble and feeling like you deserve more. But I knew that Karen's actions had ruined our quiet neighborhood for good, and that her arrest wouldn't be enough to fix the damage she had done. My wife, Lena, loves to crochet and often makes handmade gifts for our friends and family. Whenever her second oldest brother got married, she crafted a beautiful shawl for the bride to wear in the evening. The bride adored it, and since then, Lena has been making shawls for every family member who gets married. Now, Lena's older brother, George, is getting married again. Lena doesn't have a good relationship with George because he treated her badly when they were kids. But when she has to see him, she's polite but keeps her distance. Lena doesn't want to cut off ties with the rest of her family, just because of George. I work with George, and while we're not close friends, we get along well at work. Lena actually encouraged this, but when George was transferred to my team, I was considering asking for a transfer myself. I didn't want to expose Lena to George since our team often has gatherings with our significant others. Since George's upcoming wedding is a family affair, Lena's mom asked her to crochet a shawl for George's fiancé. Lena reluctantly agreed, and we planned that I would take this finished shawl to work and give it to George so Lena wouldn't have to see him. Earlier this week, the shawl was completed and I emailed George at work to let him know that I will bring it in today because the wedding was tomorrow. When I got to work this morning, I handed George the shawl and told him we were looking forward to the wedding. At lunchtime, Lena called me sounding upset. She explained that George's fiancé had called her, saying she was no longer invited to the wedding. The reason? They claimed the wedding venue and reception place were too small for the number of guests, so they had to make cutbacks. However, I was still invited to the wedding. This made me pretty mad because it seemed like they had only invited Lena to get the shawl, which felt quite rude. If they had just asked Lena to make one, she probably would have done it. She loves crocheting. On my way out of work, I noticed George wasn't at his desk, but the shawl was there. I was still upset about how they had used Lena, so I impulsively put the shawl in my work bag, and I left a note on George's desk letting him know that since Lena was no longer invited, neither the shawl nor I would be attending the wedding. On my way home, I told Lena what I had done and suggested we go out together instead to make the most of our time without a sitter. Lena was upset that I had taken the shawl back, especially since it caused an uproar in her family group chat. People were calling her petty because I had taken it back. Lena wants me to return the shawl. I'm torn because I don't believe they deserved Lena's kindness after using her like this. However, I also don't want Lena to be upset with me over George and the shawl. So am I the jerk for taking it back? Edit. I've messaged the group chat explaining that I took the shawl, and if anyone should be angry, it should be me. I also mentioned that I'd do it again because no one should treat Lena poorly. And there was some comments on the post. Someone saying, "Not that jerk. You're actually the hero for standing up to this immature behavior from George and his fiancée on behalf of your wife. It's unbelievable that they decide to do a head count for the wedding just the day before it. I bet that if you'd informed them that you'd bring the shawl to the wedding, they wouldn't have uninvited Lena. There is a slight touch of insensitivity in taking this action without your wife's permission. But in my opinion, that's what made you the hero in this situation." Another commenter adds, "Not the jerk. Your wife is a people pleaser. Your brother-in-law did this to steal a shawl. Getting something through false pretense is stealing. From someone who was dismissed and used by my family, applaud you for defending your wife." A third commenter goes with, "Listen, the uninviting is a greater offense and this family is whack. But as a crafter, I just want to caution OP against discarding the shawl or selling it without the wife's consent. I value my labor and work and will be devastated knowing something like that I worked hard on was lost or sold to a stranger. I would want it back to keep or give to someone else I actually like. And while I would like OP and would 1000% take it back after being uninvited, I don't think it's fair to strip the wife of agency in this situation. Whatever her reasons are, denying her wish that sister-in-law receive the shawl is wrong because she's an adult and should be allowed to make these decisions on her own. It's patronizing to force her hand, and her behavior isn't healthy either, and OP should keep standing up for her and encouraging her to go to therapy and to stop putting up with this abuse. But you don't just take away someone's rights because you think they are being a pushover. Not the jerk to OP because I don't think you should have to be complicit in your wife's unhealthy family dynamics, and you have every right to not want to deliver the shawl. But at this point, the right thing to do is give the shawl back to your wife and let her make her own decisions. Back in the day when smartphones weren't glued to our hands, life was simpler. The story which I'm about to share happened during that time when PCs and networks ruled our tech-savvy world. I had a friend named Bob. He was a master of all things IT, with a knack for computers and networks that left most people in awe. Bob was married to a woman, let's call her Sarah, and things were sailing smoothly in their relationship until a storm called suspicion hit their shores. It all began when one of Sarah's closest friends got caught cheating on her husband. In an attempt to escape the blame, this friend tried to throw Sarah under the bus as well. Bob, however, had no concrete proof to back up his wife, and so things settled down for a while. Fast forward nearly a year later, and Bob found himself once again in the eye of the storm. Sarah's behavior had taken a shady turn after attending her high school reunion. He confided in me about his concerns, and we spent countless hours discussing various scenarios. During one of these conversations, Bob made a joke in reference to a keylogger, but it didn't seem like he was entirely joking. Finally, he asked me to let the matter drop and emphasized, "Don't tell anyone, not even your wife." Several months went by and life continued as usual. I was up early one morning around 5:30 to 6, getting ready for work. As I was going about my morning routine, I received a Facebook Messenger notification. It was a message from Bob, but to my surprise, it was a group chat that included everyone we knew. Her family, his family, our friends, and even some strangers. My initial reaction was skepticism. It looked like a phishing link, even though it came from Bob, who was known for his extreme caution. A short while later, I received an email from Bob that contained some ominous and unsavory comments along with the same link. This email too was sent to a broad group of recipients, including Sarah's workplace, her family, her friends, Bob's family, and even some people I didn't recognize. With growing unease, I realized that this was not a hoax, so I cautiously opened the link. What I found on the other side was beyond belief. A hastily constructed website filled with pictures and videos of Sarah and another man. These were not hidden camera recordings but rather screenshots including video screen captures spanning several weeks. Bob had captioned each piece of evidence with snarky comments and colorful names for Sarah and her lover. The sheer amount of evidence was embarrassing, to say the least. There were videos of Sarah engaging in intimate acts with her lover, chat logs detailing their eagerness to meet again, a solo video of her self-indulgence, numerous pictures, and even hurtful comments where she belittled Bob to her lover. It was a devastating blow to Bob, with Sarah attempting to stroke her lover's ego by comparing him favorably to her husband. I immediately dropped what I was doing and called Bob. He answered, sounding drunk and combative. He had been up all night creating the website and drowning his sorrows in alcohol. Every word he uttered about women was laced with bitterness. However, I knew that we needed to act swiftly to prevent this situation from causing irreparable damage to his marriage, their careers, and their children. After some persistence, I convinced Bob to take down the website. As he sobbed and logged in to remove the incriminating evidence, I could hear loud yelling in the background. Sarah had burst into the room, and a heated argument ensued. There was nothing I could do to intervene as a phone call abruptly ended, with Sarah screaming and Bob hurling accusations of infidelity. For the rest of the day, the website remained live, and Bob had even added a view counter to track the number of people who had witnessed Sarah's intimate moments with her former classmate. Bob had meticulously prepared for this moment. He had installed a keylogger on their computer, which recorded their entire screen. When he was away, Sarah would log in and communicate with her lover via Facebook and other means. Bob had not only discovered her lover but also uncovered a web of connections: his family, his wife's family, his job, and even more. All these individuals were included in the Facebook and email groups that received the shocking revelations. I had no knowledge of what became of Sarah's lover and his marriage, but I do know the aftermath that befell Bob's life. Sarah, desperate to make amends, offered everything she could think of. Bob, despite having his friends and family witness his wife's infidelity, contemplated taking her back, but he couldn't get past the comments about his masculinity. In the end, Bob made the painful decision to leave her. He gained around 100 pounds and eventually moved as far away as possible, severing most of his friendships and ties with his family. As for Sarah, she underwent some drastic changes as well. Her once attractive appearance transformed, and she acquired a reputation for her less and desirable behavior. The consequences of her actions had left their mark, and she was no longer the same person she had once been. The aftermath of the fateful day forever altered the lives of those involved. Bob, having lost faith in relationships, chose a passive isolation and bitterness. Sarah, once a trusted wife and friend, was left with the scars of her choices, and I, the unwilling witness to it all, could only reflect on how technology had both exposed and fractured the bonds of trust that held our world together. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.